And with that, I would like to welcome in TempestMask, who's going to be running Spark the Electric Jester any percent minimum tech for us.
As I'll ever be.
Alright everyone, we're back, and I'm here with my good friend, TempestMask. So, Tempest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Alara. Hello, friends and fellow gamers. Real quick, I just totally derped out and forgot to open up Live Split. So, I'm obviously personally going to be timing my run. But aside from this very last-second derpy mistake coming from yours truly, yeah, my name is TempestMask1000. Some of you all know me as Steve, and this is Spark the Electric Jester 2, a game released in 2019 by Lake Feppard as the direct sequel to Spark the Electric Jester. However, this did initially start off as a spin-off to the fan-favorite character Fark, and it just effectively became the next main entry because Lake was like, you know what, I think I'm cooking here. And admittedly, from 2D to 3D, this is a pretty good game. But that said, I will be joined by fellow Spark the Electric Jester community speedrunner and mainly of Spark the Electric Jester 3, Haxum.
Hello everyone, I am Haxum. I'll be joining Steve today in this awesome marathon run.
Absolutely. Also, shout out to my boy Spark right behind me. That's the official Spark the Electric Jester Wind Jester plushie, and it is I'm very glad to show him off for the first time at an event. But yeah, so we're gonna get this thing started, and we're just gonna jump into a brand new file. So let's set our difficulty to normal, and time will not begin until I jump into the first level. The reason I'm actually doing this setup is because the game does, or rather the community does not count Fark School. We officially start the timer through an auto splitter, by the way, once the game recognizes we jump into the first level. So I'm actually going to quickly put up my settings, and then we will be good to go. And Alara, I do believe we met that incentive for Hammer Jester.
That is very true. We did in fact meet Hammer Jester, so thank you everyone here for donating to that. We are going to get to see all 5 abilities used during the run.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everyone's generous donations, including you, Haxum. All right. So who's ready for a good time? I'm ready for a good time. Haxum, would you like to count me down?
3, 2, 1, get gassy!
All right. And so we officially start off at Flower Mound City, known as FM City. And you're going to start by seeing me pick up our base 3 powers. This will be Plasma Sword, Edgy, and then Power Armor. So, as Alara mentioned, there are 5 overall Jester powers, which effectively work like Kirby copy abilities, as Spark the Electric Jester 1 also had... Ooh, that's unfortunate. I'm going to have to do that again. I'll explain why in just a moment, but Spark the Electric Jester 1 also had quite a bit of Kirby inspiration to its name as well. And so Jester powers were down by the dozen. Funnily enough, you could unlock the ability to play as Fark in the first game, but he did not have access to any Jester powers. So in the second game, Lake decided to give it a go, but greatly reduced the amount from, I think it was something along the lines of 12 to 5. 3 abilities are returning from Spark 1, and 2 of them are brand new. So those abilities are Plasma Sword, Edgy, Power Armor, Biker, and Hammer. Now, 3 of the 3 we collected, they will especially be useful for their own respective reasonings, which I will have Haxum explain momentarily. However, the Biker power is also pretty useful in speedrunning as well, just only really considered for if necessary, if that makes a bit of sense. And then Hammer, unfortunately, we do not see any exclusive use from it. It's not all that necessary per se, so that's why it is normally shelved, and why I decided to make it a donation incentive for the intents and purposes of Prevent-A-Thon. But Haxum, if you would like to go ahead and explain Jester powers for me as we get on schmoovin' in FM Downtown.
Sure can do. Plasma Sword is useful because of its regular charge moves, or just regular move because of its speed buff. It's also used in a glitch later on in the game. Edgy is the main platforming ability because you get an upward boost called an Edgy boost. When that's used with a jump, you'll get a lot of vertical momentum. And Power Armor is the main combat ability. It has the fastest combos in the game, while having a slightly longer dash for platforming.
Now, you just saw me enter the boss fight, that being Rhino Dino. I'm doing something a bit interesting here, where you also you had me go into options menu, or rather, I went into options menu, and I swapped the difficulty from normal to challenge. Now, this is temporary, because in Spark 3, difficulty swapping works before you enter a level, whereas in Spark 2, it was the options menu. And so it's for this reason that the official change actually happens during the level. So, what is the difference between normal and challenge? Well, challenge is the highest difficulty in that Fark here will die in 2 hits. However, that does not apply to gradual HP depletion for some reason. Now, in the case of what it does do, it buffs my attack greatly. So, switching to Challenge Jester is good for some pretty quick boss kills. And you will see me decide to go for it if I'm feeling especially risky. Aside from that, there will be a fair few bosses where I will not do so. And not much else to explain, so let's just go into the tech. You're currently seeing me go boosting around the whole levels by a trick called magnet dashing. Fark has a normal dash, which is good for keeping his momentum going, especially up slopes and whatnot, if need be, but it is not all that fast. That's why he has the charged Jester dash, which is sort of the game's equivalent to a spin dash. Then there is the Jester dash, which is confusingly the homing attack. Turns out that the amount of speed he gets from the initial burst is pretty fast, and if we cancel out the game's logic behind the homing attack itself, we can make him yeet a very far distance. It is the main speed tech between this game and that of Spark 3 as well. What you're also seeing me do is the Edgy Boost, which is the charge attack in midair for Edgy Jester, and it is very good for getting some extra vertical movements. So that is why Edgy will effectively serve as our platforming wizard, whereas Power Armor will be our combat wizard of sorts. Now, I could do a combat section here, as this is the mini-boss that is blocking the way to the gold ring. However, I'm actually going to show off a little bit and give you all a look into a wall clip. This is the first of a few that you will see within the run itself, and we can just outright skip it. It is a bit tricky to pull off, though, because you have to reach that within a certain angle. Otherwise, Spark will not squeeze in, and therefore it is something you don't necessarily have to do. I do believe certain runs of the game actually are more than okay with trying to take on the mini-boss at the end, which I will say shout out to Spark 3 for giving us health bar enemy names whereas this game sadly does not. But luckily, the credits is a rundown of the entire enemy list, so at least there's that. But now we are in Floria Plant, and we will be reaching our next boss right after that. In the meantime, Axum, if you could go ahead and do a little bit of explaining some stuff.
Sure can do. This level is the first level to have lava, which gradually takes away your health bar while you're standing in it. And this level also introduces objects that you must parry through, which are self-explanatory.
Admittedly, because of how broken Fark's parry is, Lake Pepper thought it was perfectly fine to throw those obstacles in, which makes sense. It is part of the game design when you think about it. However, Spark 2's levels, all 14 of them, excluding boss fights and mini-bosses in the levels, they eventually became playable in Spark the Electric Jester 3 as part of a free update, which took out those obstacles because the parrying system in that game is much different. So there's no doubt as to why it happened in the first place. Just one of those major differences that, although I would say Spark the Electric Jester 3 therefore invalidates the need to play Spark 2, both experiences are generally different per se, that I would still personally recommend it. So this is Turbo Bird, and this will be our second boss fight, where the desperation move he is about to use will force him into this little movement sequence that I can do nothing about. So, Alara, if you'd like to say anything right now, this would be a great time.
I do actually have some things I want to say, including I have a donation that came in from Anonymous for $25 that they just say, more marathon? More marathon! So we got some excitement there. The other one we got in was from James Swan, who sent in $5, and they said, had to donate during Tempest's run as a thank you for introducing me to Prevent-A-Thon. You've got this, Tempest.
Thanks, James. Fellow friendo from the GDQ sphere, a very recent friendo to the channel. Very much appreciate you for that. And all that good jazz. I do want to apologize, by the way. It does seem as though the game feed may... the stream feed may chug a bit. I think my computer is unfortunately trying to give me the works, which we'll say that's marathon luck for better or for worse. But yeah, we'll roll through it. We'll see what we can do. I do apologize to the tech team. This is nothing wrong with the stream. It's just a little something on my end that, you know, is a bit unfortunate. So now we're in Forest of Blood.
Team, I do want to say, again, I cannot say this enough as someone who works backstage a lot. Shoutouts to the tech team for doing a fantastic job. They have been on it this whole marathon.
Absolutely. So
to explain what Tempest did at the beginning of the level, it's called an exhausted magnet dash. It's basically a magnet dash where you exhaust all your dashes before doing essentially what is a regular magnet dash, but has an angle to it.
Much preferred for vertical height, and it won't be the last time you see me attempt it. I did kind of botch that a little bit, so not the best example of one per se, but trust me, there will be more. Now, I wish I could explain why I have a tendency to get random buffs, but you're noticing those colored circles under my health bar? That's an attack boost for the red and a defense boost for yellow, and I believe how it goes is that sometimes the game will reward you for defeating enough enemies, so to speak. Like, I think that's just the best way I can describe it to y'all, really. And not much else to it, so, you know, do be like that. Now for Castella Blanca. This is a level that I do believe is very inspired, if I'm not mistaken, by Hang Castle from Sonic Heroes, which is a great level and has a just as awesome soundtrack. I'm gonna actually see if I can't fix this a little bit. Let's turn off VSync and see if that quickly changes just a bit. This is weird, otherwise I'm surprised this is quite honestly happening. Alright, here we go. So now we're gonna perform a little... Okay, that's never happened before. I have not seen Fark do that sort of interaction with that great, but Yeah, what you're witnessing me do is something where he will clip right in between the space, and then I will go into the floor of that tower, and then we should be able to get through the barrier and then fall down to where the goal is. I do apologize. I assure you this time I am running the game on the patch that does allow for this trick to happen, which I'll explain a little bit down the line. There we go. That's more like it. Come on, buddy, get out of there. Whew, alright, a little bit of time loss, but nothing to it. And now we just keep falling. Alright, Haxum, so we're coming up to a very interesting boss, and I will give you permission to start explaining right away.
So, this next boss is a very major difficulty spike in the game because it floats less telegraphable attacks. It's all about memory like the previous bosses, but something interesting happens at the start of the second phase.
For now, we're just going to take this a little bit easy. This is one of the bosses that I would surely not prefer to use Challenge Jester for. In fact, I think we've already really cleared the amount of bosses that I'd prefer to use Challenge Jester on, so... unless I'm feeling very risky, I'll go for it. If otherwise, don't expect it, is all I'm saying. But, hey, at least we got to show it off of Rhino Dino, which is always one of the easiest ones to do. And, by the way, shout out to Bigfoot from Sonic Adventure 2, of course. Alright, not too bad. Floats down, but don't you worry, she'll be fine. We'll see her in Spark 3. So, on to Shantoria Town. Now, this is a very interesting level, and I'd say one of the bases for the any % minimum tech, which we actually didn't quite explain the logistics of the category. So, in the normal any %, there is a trick called switch boosting, and minimum tech was made to make that a run where you can't really do that. The reason for such is because in this version of the game, 1.2.1, or anything that's below 1.3, you can switch between Jester powers and constantly mash the attack button to get a ungodly amount of speed going. And I do mean it is like one of the fastest tricks of the game, bar none. But of course, it does have the tendency to hurt your fingers if done without a little bit of caution to the wind, so, yeah, that's why I prefer to run this category. Ooh, and didn't think that was gonna hit. So, let's have Haxum explain what I'm trying to attempt here.
So, Steve is trying to attempt something known as Plasma Sword Glitch. It's essentially a glitch with the Plasma Sword that allows you to do something similar to switch boosting, I would say?
In a sense. In a sense, not quite to the same extent, but yeah.
And what you have to do is use the Plasma Sword's projectile attack and just spam it to gain an ungodly amount of speed, similar to switch boosting.
Yeah. This combined with gems, jump extended magnets,
Extended magnet.
Yes. Which is what I'm about to perform right here with a magnet dash. Ooh, okay. Oops, late start. I'm gonna try that one more time. Okay. Nothing to it, really. This is not the easiest to pull off, and for good reason. So, my fellow runner in this category and personal rival, Nick Cart, discovered this version of the Plasma Sword glitch, in which he is normally a player on a keyboard and mouse. And because of that, this trick uses the lock-on feature, which is activated by the right shoulder button. Which, how that all plays out is, you can, you may have heard me mention, the mid-air strong attack that I'm charging up as Edgy Jester, you can do that two ways. The right shoulder button, or the Y button, which is your general strong attack button. But because locking on has to happen first, tapping the lock-on button will cause the lock to disengage, or rather, holding it. So, like, it's a bit of a finicky mechanic, and it's understandable as to why it didn't make the cut for Spark 3, as I can't imagine a lot of players really used it much. But yeah, we're just going to try this one last time, because I really want to showcase this whole thing for you in the first place. Now, I will give a shout-out to the Mimic, who is also a known Sonic Adventure speedrunner. And actually, shout out to GDQ real quick, because they're having their Sonic and the Sidekicks event, and he just went on with his Gamma speedrun. So, hi, Mimic. Hope you're having a great time. That said, Mimic found the Plasma Sword glitch, in which using certain strong attacks will allow the projectile move from Plasma Sword to have a much stronger knockback effect, and so that's why it became a major discovery for Minimum Tech. So we're just gonna now go into Technoria City here, and shout out to Jet Set Radio, which I believe was a big inspiration for this tune right here. Spark tunes are really something else, and you all deserve to listen to it. Each of the 3 games, for that matter.
Special shout out to Andy Tunstall, who made the boss tracks for this game and the final boss track for this game as well, which is an absolute banger, mind you.
Actually, there's going to be a very interesting thing you're going to see me do behind the scenes once we get to the final boss. To explain, you might have heard the title theme earlier, and if you've played Spark 1, you may recognize it as the boss fight against Fark, which happens in the level Megarath Fleet. So, in 1.3, while certain things were patched, Lake Pepper also threw in a little bonus where the final boss fight now has a cover of Spark 1's final boss theme, and it is superior in my opinion. So much so that while I'm at least trying to figure out a way to mod that into 1.2.1, wow, imagine if I could run on earlier versions of the game. Until then, I'm going to use a little bit of a special trick to have the audio play in the background, and you'll see what it is, so thank me later. Effectively, I will be, in short, doing this run without making sacrifices to the speed tech. Alright, and there we go. That said, running the game on 1.3 is still pretty viable for minimum tech, very much so. And also shout out to the Xbox One port, which was the first and for the longest time only console port of any of the 3 Spark games to exist. However, I will say that Spark 3 did recently get announced to have a Switch port coming out, so big props to Lake Pepper for finding somebody to help with the publishing and conversion for it. It's looking pretty good for Spark, I'd say.
So to explain EJ, he might look weak in the story, but he is no joke in his boss fight. His attacks are very difficult to parry on, and challenge Jester, his fight is quite difficult. EJ uses combo attacks similar to Fark's. EJ has a projectile attack and has an AoE attack. During phase 2, EJ spawns 6 electrical orbs surrounding an arena, and 2 of those orbs spawn electrical beams, presumably, based on where Fark is. Flashing lights warning, if you have epilepsy, please look away.
Yes, because your eye health, your health is just very much important, and unfortunately, the double fight here has a very egregious attack starting in phase 2, which will cause the screen to flash. So, yeah, definitely something that is to be said. However, I will also explain...
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, once phase 2 also kicks in, we got the vocals. All right, here we go. Go ahead.
So to explain double, he starts off simple. You have to parry attacks to get to full energy to get your full 3 times damage, and in phase 2, double uses AoEs to cut that you have to parry. Well, this is telegraphed by 2 energy flashes from double charging. And what is happening now is that double is doing a desperation attack before he dies.
Yeah. Alright, not too bad.
Would this be a good moment to chime in with a few things?
Oh, definitely. Go ahead, Alara.
So, as I said, we do have that superliminal run. It is getting very, very close to getting met. We are so close. But I would like to also give an extra announcement. We have a potential bonus run, and all you have to do is help us hit that landmark $3,000. So if you want to see that happen, we can bring in a bonus run. We're going to have Osmorn running Skater Gator 3D any percent. That's going to be happening right after Superliminal. So I cannot stress this enough. We need to get that going. We need to get those donations in, but we can get even more Prevent-A-Thon. And since one's a milestone and the other one is a donation incentive target goal, we can get both of those happening with the same donation. So we're a bit over $100. We're about $107.50 away from that milestone run, and we're about $20 short for that targeted donation incentive. So we can get a lot more content for Prevent-A-Thon if you get those donations in soon.
You know, I gotta say, you really got my interest, because I've seen Osmorn do Skater Gator at GDQ, and it was such a great run, a race against Allison 8-Bit. So, yeah, definitely get that met, folks. You will not be disappointed. So, we're now in Terminal Dragoon, and this is a stage that takes place on a train. Oh, by the way, I like trains. So,
Yeah.
shout out to Tom Scott for those who don't get the reference. And with that, we are now at the end boss of this stage, and I do believe this will be the last time that we see such. This is a little different, though, because the goal ring doesn't really spawn when he's defeated. Rather, he causes the level to end when he's defeated. So we have to actually defeat him to see the end of the stage, period. And now to continue the train theme, we will be entering a little train yard called Scariestropolis with a, what I believe is a Japanese-inspired aesthetic, and a very beautiful one at that. So now we're going to just try to avoid the trains, keep ourselves launching. And this is a particularly short stage when done just right. However, I will use an exhausted magnet dash at the end to see if we can get ourselves quickly up as fast as possible. And then some. Oops, okay, that was, I didn't mean to miss the spring. However, it is good to note that we actually want to try and avoid boost pads, because as counterintuitive as that sounds, they do set our horizontal speed to something a little bit more limited than what, say, a magnet dash can do for us. So it is preferred that we do use these techniques over the boost pads, unless the speed that we start off with is low enough to begin with that it doesn't really have much consequence to it. And now coming up to the tallest level of the game, Titanic Tower. Haxum, I'm going to pass this one to you.
This stage really starts out simple, but involves another use of Plasma Sword glitch. I'll explain it when we get to it.
We're going to come up to that area right shortly. I'm going to set myself up with a speed burst, and then... Okay, no, that's not quite it. Nope. Okay. I was a little too focused on the speed boost, so let's try that again. Alright, that's more like it. And I think that's actually a very good launch, so we're just going to keep that going and hope for the best. Alright, Haxum, go ahead.
So, to explain what Tempest did, he did another instance of Plasma Sword glitch, where he had to turn 180 degrees, and had to skew gravity alongside that.
It does seem like I am veering just a little bit to the right, but I think we should be okay, that I won't try to adjust it. This is very important because while I can use half inputs or like very, very quick inputs to try and adjust the air trajectory, if the next projectile activates while I'm holding a different direction, the game will immediately correct Park's positioning, and then the gravity skew is gone. Alright, so now on to our next boss. This is Flint. Now, unlike most bosses, excuse me, by the way, he is a little bit more focused on the idea of speed, whereas Double was sort of presented as his quote-unquote master. If you want to learn a little bit more about their backstory, Spark, the Electric Jester 3 does cover it, but you can also get a bit of that inference coming from the dialogue in this game. That in mind, though, does bring us to the moveset being a lot more speed and rapid strike oriented. So he does like to just jump around the battlefield, disappear. Makes him a little bit hard to hit, especially with moves like that. But now we're just gonna keep it going. And I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit, as I like to say in instances like this. Alright, so far. Oop, no, that should be okay. There we go. We got it. Whew. I'm grateful that that actually worked out. Also, he does not explode, he does not go down, rather he just gets back up, he nods, and then vanishes. We'll see him in the third game. Guaranteed. So now to my favorite level, Planetary Strike. This is actually a really... I'm going to try that again, though, because I forgot to start skewing myself this way. This is a very unique stage in that Lake Pepper did not give it any enemies, but rather there is a bunch of bit bubbles and just bits in general. Now, Spark the Electric Jester 2 has score attack and time attack medals. So there are gold medals and platinum medals, each based on how much score you get in a level by the end, as well as how fast you go. And they are clocked separately, so you don't have to feel pressured to get both sets and in one fell swoop. Now, this stage is probably the easiest to do the score medals with, on principle of having a low requirement, because Lake knew that with the whole idea of the bit bubbles, he kind of had to go that way, really. So, definitely a shout out to him for that. And yeah, not really much else to talk about. There's mostly just us going through some really nice, I guess you could say, Death Egg inspired loop-de-loops and all sorts of stuff. Maybe some Final Rush, Fast FR, Final... what's Sonic's equivalent to Final Rush again? Oh gosh, it's been a while. I forgot. But yeah, no, we're just gonna proceed on through. And then once we get to the next level, I'm actually going to switch it up a little bit and give you all a little representation of Biker Jester, just so that we can see what it does, because, you know, we're getting to that point where we are nearing the end of the game, and so, you know, it only makes sense. Now, you're going to see me go to the shop where I can spend my bits to get some power-ups, and you notice that I bought things in reverse order. That's because the game has a bit of a shop quirk where it does then display the power-ups in that particular order. So, I wanted Biker Jester to be in the slot where I normally keep Plasma Jester. That was intentional.
Alright, does this mean that I have some time to say a few things?
Let's go for it.
Alright, fantastic. So we have a few things that I want to mention. One, you guys are bringing in a ton of love, so if you didn't know already, we are raising money for Little Warriors, so thank you so much for that. It's going a long way. Also, we had a ton of donations come in, including $20 from Anonymous, saying, saw the Superliminal incentive, and I knew I had to donate for one of my favorite games. Let's get more Marathon. And with that, we have met the Superliminal incentive.
Let's go.
We are getting that one more run done for this event. But that's not all. You guys have been absolutely showering us with donations in these last few minutes. So I appreciate it so much. So we have $8.02 from Trainer Anade, who says, rounding up my donations for the weekend, thank you everyone for such an amazing weekend. Runners, volunteers, and viewers. Now let's get that bonus run. We also had $10 from Brookie Cookie, who said, hey, you guys, so happy to donate to the cause. You got this, brother. And then lastly, the last one I want to say real quick before I pass it back off to you is, I have $10 from Artsy Chris, who says, great job, Tempest Mask, Haxum, and Alara. So thank you so much, all of you. This is going to a great cause. We appreciate it so much. And I want to see us hit that milestone. If we get that 3,000, we can have so much more Prevent-A-Thon. So everyone, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I appreciate it. And back to you, Tempest.
I just want to say this is Alara's second time hosting me with this particular game, so I thought it was a very funny coincidence when I heard that she was going to be doing so, and I very much appreciate it too, because Alara is a very good friendo that I met at AGDQ, which was my first in-person GDQ, so I wouldn't have it any other way. You're doing a wonderful job, Alara.
I appreciate that so much. You are fantastic. I may have been surprised and squeeing a little bit when I saw that I was hosting this for a second time.
Oh, yeah. I can totally understand that. I did have a bit of an interesting little uh-oh moment there. You noticed that my shield went red? That's what happens when you parry a little too late, and instead of gaining energy, you lose energy. So hopefully that'll be the only time we really get to see that. It can happen to anyone, though. And there's also a state called overheating, which is what happens when you hold your guard shield for too long. So definitely don't want that. Alright, I will say we've got a big laser warning coming up. It's not a flashing lights warning, but it will try to cover the screen, and it's going to happen. Alright, no problem. We just parry this thing. Yeah, did I mention that Fark's parry can do that with just about anything in this game that can damage him? Including what would happen if this countdown, which, by the way, went from 64 to 59, don't worry about it, happens to reach 0. This is an escape sequence because Hyperwrath Fleet is obviously a successor to that of Megawrath Fleet. Same song, in fact, like it was an exact rip of the theme of Megawrath. If the countdown hits 0, there will be a giant screen attack that serves as the sort of explosion for the self-destruct sequence. And yeah, you can parry that. It's hilarious. Alright, we're now moving into our last regular boss of the game. This is going to be Astra and Romalo. And when Haxum mentioned Andy Tongstall, he also contributed a character design to this project in Astra herself. So shout out to Andy again. And Romalo is a returning character from Spark 1 who was an ally to Spark. However, he doesn't quite trust Spark, which is why he's teaming up with Astra, because he seems to have a bit more trust in her. And now we're going to get our Devil May Cry on with the second phase. Go ahead.
First of all, hi Brooklyn, hi Mom. And second, this is very similar to Float's battle in the fact that Astra does replenish her health at the second phase. Aside from one attack, this fight is very simple.
We do get to see something of a newer version of it, though, in a certain boss battle for Spark 3. Alright, folks, this is where your donations are going to come in, and now I'm going to purchase Hammer Jester. First, we're going to... Whoops, let's try that again. I'm going to buy Hammer first, Edgy second, and then Plasma third. Oh, and I just realized I never got to show off Biker Jester. Dang it! Well, at least I purchased it. That'll have to do. Hey, at least I can still fulfill the incentive. That much I can say with certainty. Alright. Welcome to Apocalypse Thruster. This is the final level of the game. And we're going to perform one more gem right here. That should be good. And now you're going to see me use Plasma Sword to get all the way over to here. This is going to be a bit interesting. Okay, not too bad. We hit the checkpoint, and that's what we wanted. So that is still going to be a first try. You'll love to see it. And now we just got to get up right here. So that gem is a godsend because normally this level is cut immensely by the switch boosting, but thanks to Nick Cart's find, that means we just cut out like 90% of the entire level. But we still have this vertical climb to contend with, which is probably the most disgusting obstacle of Apocalypse Thruster, because, yeah, as you just saw right there, the game normally has you running up the slant, and if that somehow gets interrupted, there's no way to get back on it naturally. It is, admittedly, one of the general flaws of the Hedge physics engine here in Unity that Lake Peppered built the game off of, but I'd still say it is a very solid engine for what it's worth, so... yeah, we did manage to go pretty fast there, but we still have to take it just a bit slow. No big deal. And that's probably my favorite use of the gem in general. So I want to stay outside of, stay inside of the little blue fire, which is going to deal a lot of gradual damage to Fark if I don't. So, you know, we're basically in space. This whole entire station is just the giant... like rocket that Frium, the villain, who actually gets revealed to be Fark's dad, is trying to send into the Earth and get rid of all formy kind, which is basically a space ant race, and you know, it's Sparks people. So now we get to go ahead and fight with Hammer Jester, and I'll have Haxum explain the boss battle. Also, flashing flashing warning. I forgot to bring that up because Freem does use that similar type of attack that we saw in the double fight, unfortunately.
This boss does return from their final boss from Spark Story in Spark 1. This is split up into 3 phases. At the end of the first 2 phases, he does replenish his health, just like that. Remember, the attack patterns in Freem might be toast. Who knows?
Alright, here we go. Keep it going. Yeah, this is pretty interesting because this does let you get to see a little bit more of the combat than how it normally goes. Luckily, this is the third and final phase of Mark III. So... okay. No, we'll be fine. And because we'll be fine, I'm actually going to go ahead and set up for our final boss battle. You're actually going to see me mute the in-game music. And he's down. Alright, cool. So the reason why you just saw me mute the music is because, as I mentioned earlier, I want you all to hear the proper final boss theme. So we're going to load it up just a moment, but you're also going to see my game freeze. So enjoy the jam, everyone, because you all deserve it. So, we're now in the final battle, and we are now Super Fark, and we've got 3 final phases of Freem Mark Ultimate. So, Haxum, take me home.
The ultimate showdown. You are Super Fark now. Put that power to good use. Switch between light and heavy attacks, know the attack patterns, and Freem will actually be toast. In between each phase, there's an unskippable cutscene, so jam out and enjoy the music.
And time will be when we see the final cutscene once I get my final hit on the 3rd phase, so I will be sure to count it down properly. Struggle for it all! Was it worth the fall? Then I cast my judgment and in another day. What is left of gain? My power and your pain. The power and your pain.
Purpose of on. Can I mute those voices and learn to live again? Now the fight is won. Together till we're gone. Forever you are gone.
Sorry for the impromptu singing, I just had to. Can you blame me? Alright. Final phase here, he's gonna ditch his weapons and go for the melee attacks. There's one particular move that can especially be a pain to deal with. But that is okay. And time will be coming up very shortly. So get ready. 3, 2, 1, time.
Aim.
And that is... my timer does not want to behave. There we go. That is technically a PB right there. Let's go! I can't believe we did that with the hammer incentive. That's great. Oh, heck yeah. Woo! That felt good. That felt really good.
Congratulations on the PB. That's exciting to watch. It's always a good time to hear someone saying they got a PB. Now, then, before I continue on, I do want to say thank you so much, both of you, for being here. If you have anything else you need to say or any shout-outs, this is a fantastic time to do so.
Absolutely. Just a quick shout out to the Spark the Electric Jester speedrun community. If you'd like to learn any of the runs yourself, we'd be more than happy to get you situated. We have Spark the Electric Jester 1. We have 1 Recharged, which is a fan mod that effectively gives the game new content and also adds a lot of balancing and performance help to it from our very own Farkle. We also got Spark 2, which is what I'm doing here, and then of course Spark 3. And yeah, big shout out to Nick Cart, a runner from quite a ways on the other side of the globe. He's done a lot of work continuing where I started off, and he is the world record holder of this category as well as the Fark only stuff. And yeah, I mean, just shout out to all Spark runners in general. You know, Shovel Claws, Mimic, Squish, you know, Freeson, even Haxum, all of y'all. Thank you so much for being such really rad gamers. And Lake Feppard, of course. Please support him. He is working on an F-Zero inspired game called Extreme Formula, which we actually saw the poster for in Technoria City. Real quick. Nope. I love to do that at the end always. Haxum, any shoutouts you would like to quickly make?
I don't really have any shoutouts, but shoutouts to Shovel Claws again.
I would agree. Shovel Claws, it's the head moderator of our community, and it has done a great job of just looking out for us and just doing all in just keeping the spark spirit alive, basically. For real. All right, so yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you for, by the way, putting me at the end of the Sonic block. I'm kind of tickled funny to have the pleasure of doing so with a very Sonic-inspired game. And again, thank you for meeting the donation incentive, everybody. This was a great showcase and then some. And yeah, that's basically going to do it for me. I hope the rest of Prevent-A-Thon goes great. Let's keep raising money for Little Warriors. And yeah, until we next meet, ciao, Michi.
But stay tuned, I am still gonna be here.
True.
All right. So with that, everyone, I would like to thank you all for being here. This is going to be my ending as well. I'm going to be signing off as host after this. So it was a pleasure being here. Thank you for raising money for Little Warriors. Thank you for all your donations. Thank you for watching.